It's for the first time since its inception that the GST Council voted on a proposal, and it was to bring lotteries under a uniform rate. Nikunj Johri reports on that and the other decisions that were made out in the 38th GST Council meeting.
The GST Council has voted for the first time since its inception to have a uniform rate for state-run and state-authorized lotteries. This uniform GST rate has been decided at 28% and will be effective from March 1, 2020. Remember, earlier state-run lotteries were taxed at 12%, while state-authorized lotteries, meaning those lotteries that are run by private players, were taxed at 28%. Now, both these lotteries, state-run and state-operated lotteries, will be taxed at 28%. Besides this, the GST Council was also briefed about the revenue position that current GST revenue position by committee of officers that was constituted to augment GST revenues, and the committee has given a representation on various ways through which voluntary compliance under the GST regime can be bettered or improved, ways through which tax base under the GST regime can be increased, and measures to improve return filing under the GST regime. Now, these measures come at a time when GST revenues are on a decline and compensation to states is increasing, which has led to deferment of compensation payments to the state governments by the center government. Now, there were strong comments made by some of the finance ministers who called deferment of the GST compensation to states as good as a debt default by the central government, and the finance minister on this has commented that the central government is committed to compensate states for any losses that they incur in first 5 years of the GST's implementation. Besides this, although there were no major rate cuts or rate hikes announced in the GST Council meeting, there was a small tinkering done where long-term leasing of industrial and financial infrastructure plots owned 20% or more by state or the central government will be exempt from GST. Earlier, this criteria was that central or state government should own 50% or more in such plots to be able to exempt from GST. Another important decision taken by the GST Council is to restrict input tax credit to 10% of the eligible credit for businesses if their invoices have been uploaded by their suppliers. Remember, last month the government had amended rules to restrict input tax credit to 20% of the eligible credit, and now this has been further restricted to 10%. This has been done to block or avoid fraudulent input tax credit claims by certain businesses. Besides this, there are two other announcements that the GST Council has made today. It has waived the late filing fee for GSTR1 returns for returns filed from July 2017 to November 2019, and if these returns are filed by January 10, 2020, the late fee on these returns will be waived. Besides this, the annual return GSTR9 and GSTR9C for financial year 2017-18, the last date for filing these annual returns has been extended to January 31st, 2020 from December 31st, 2019.